Okay, good evening. I'll call the meeting of the Cromwell Board of Education to order at 7 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Campbell? Here. Mr. Flanders?
John, are you on the line?
I would respond, but I can't hear you.
Are you here?
I am, but only peripherally because I can't hear anything.
Okay.
Or well,
How is that?
the same.
Mrs. Kelleher?
Selena, are you on the line?
Here.
She's here.
Yes, I'm here.
Here?
Mr. Menendez?
He may be late, but not here yet.
Mrs. Murley? Here. Mrs. Post? Here. Mrs. Ross? Here. Any town officials on the phone?
Are there any town officials on the line?
Steve Fortenbach.
Steve?
Steve Fortenbach here.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody else? Julius?
Lou Menendez here.
Oh, Lou is on the line. Julius or John from the Board of Finance?
Yep, John's here.
Thank you.
Hunter Boyce?
Hunter?
Here.
Devin Riggio?
Devin?
Here.
Audrey Dana?
Audrey?
Here.
And Austin Bisson?
Austin?
Here.
Great. Thank you. Okay, item 2, approval of agenda and chair's overview. So a fairly light agenda today, but we do have updates on our reopening plan as well as the COVID expenses incurred to date. So we look forward to those. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion from Jen. Is there a second? From Catherine. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Hi.
Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, celebrating our faculty staff. Dr. Macri.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. This evening, we have Miss Lucille Tutuno, and we are celebrating staff and students from ECS. She has a wonderful presentation planned for you that I'm extremely proud of, that one of our teachers was willing to do this, and our students helped. So, Ms. Tutuno?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have the pleasure of celebrating a staff member and 2 of our students at ECS. We're going to start with Nicolette Burns. She's one of our very strong members of the first grade team. She brings with her creativity and a compassion for teaching, which is reflected in all her lessons and all her work with her students. She's definitely an excellent example of dedication to her students during this very challenging time. We're so proud and pleased to have Mrs. Burns on the ECS team. We are also going to be celebrating 2 of our students, Liam Brown and Annabelle Fortin, 2 excellent role models for ECS. They shine every day. They are 2 of our remote learners. So we are going to show you in a video what a concurrent classroom looks like, whereby some students are in person and the others are at home being taught virtually. Mrs. Burns demonstrates how she meets the needs in her classroom and online simultaneously. Again, we are so proud of the effort and the consistent work of our students, Liam and Annabelle. We appreciate the part that our ECS families play with the remoters as they navigate and follow the remote learning schedule. So I'm going to ask Steve at this time to play the video.
Hi, my name is Nicolette Burns. I'm a first grade teacher here at ECS, Edna C. Stevens, and I'm going to show you a little snapshot of my classroom today. I've been teaching students that are both in school and students that are learning remotely. So you can take a look at what our day looks like. I hope you enjoy. All right, first graders, we are going to start with our warm-up for foundations. So I'm going to have Annabelle go ahead and unmute, and she's going to lead us. So we're going to listen and then repeat. Go ahead, Annabelle.
A apple app. O octopus up. Q you clean cook. U up up. X fox.
Nice job. And I'm going to move over to our vowel chart. Move your bodies with me, please. And Liam, I'm going to have you nice and loud go ahead and do our vowel warm-up. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the vowel chart, friends. Excellent. Liam, whenever you're ready.
A apple app. E. I.
Nice job, Liam and Annabelle. Thank you for our warm-up. So we are going to also practice writing some words today.
So as you can tell, education has definitely changed a lot over the last 8 months, and it has not been an easy change for our teachers, and our students, and our parents, and everyone is doing an excellent job. I thank Mrs. Burns for offering to do this, and our students, you can see them learning from home and in the classroom, and she makes it look so easy, but it really is not. It's very complicated, but I want you to notice something. The laptops that we purchased for the teachers made a huge difference in our ability to educate our students versus some of the other districts. So the fact that they have those laptops and they have webcams, and then our students are able to really focus on their learning. However, we know that there is no substitute for being in school. But I thank Mrs. Burns tremendously and all of our teachers who are doing an incredible job. And you saw that. And then there are times where we have special education students, ESL teachers, paraprofessionals streaming in with a group of students, and they go into another Google Classroom. So it's pretty cool. They are superheroes, as you can see, and so are our students. So I thank all of them very much. And you are awesome, Mrs. Burns, Liam, and Annabelle. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Macri or Mr. Tuno? Catherine, please.
Was the information on the board behind the teacher, is that their login information for their Google Classroom?
Mr. Tuno, do you know if that's where?
Their login information for Google Classroom is in their Google Classroom, their Google Meet.
Okay. I applaud that teacher for incorporating the at-home students to work and get to know the students that are in the classroom. So that is a huge task, and she did a fantastic job. So thank you, Mrs. Burns.
Thank you. And Alessandra, can we make sure the link to that video is in the minutes? Thank you. Correspondence. Dr. Macri.
We did receive one correspondence from the EAC, and it was written by Ms. Newman, and I'm sure many of our teachers share the same sentiments. Very respectfully thanking me for my leadership and communication during the unprecedented times. However, she is advocating on behalf of the EAC for a shift to full remote learning for the Cromwell Public Schools. Over the summer, the state, as we all know, created a reopening plan that included metrics indicating when districts should consider transitioning to hybrid or remote models of learning. The state threshold was set at 25 new COVID cases per day per $100,000 to $100,000 population to consider, right? That would be great. Remote learning. So she is explaining where we are as a county and where we are as a town. And she goes on to let us know that the state does move the goalposts and asking us to please consider going into remote learning for the safety and well-being of our students. She feels on behalf of the EAC that what we're doing is not sustainable as far as staffing, and there will be a mass exodus of highly qualified teachers in the near future. So she asks that, and I did respond, and you were all on the email of I will never say that I know everything, because I definitely don't, and especially in this pandemic. I'm taking the lead of the students, and I'm taking the lead of Department of Public Health, and I work in collaboration, like I explained to you always, with Department of Public Health, Jillian Hansen, who's extraordinaire, nurse supervisor extraordinaire, and PM Grandy, and we look at the data, which I will review with you during the reopening, and I feel that there is no perfect answer. I talk to our students that want to be here, and they really want to be here. And I saw that this with all my walkthroughs over the last week and this week. And then I worry about the health and well-being of, our teachers and some of our older students, and I think that's natural. But I am constantly reassured by the DPH that based on our numbers, that we are still doing okay, and that we should be able to be open for some in-person learning. What they've learned about the pandemic has changed, and I highly encourage, if any of you want to jump on the DPH call with me at Tuesday morning, it's Tuesday mornings at 8 o'clock, I can send you the link, and just listen. We say the goalposts change, and they have, but the reason why is the virus was new. So when they sent those goalposts, we only knew so much about the virus. Now, as we learn more about the virus and how it interacts in schools, and how it's being transmitted, I do think of the mental health and well-being and the safety of everyone, and I still feel at this point the best place for our students to be is in school. When that changes, I will let you know, and I'll give you some indication of what I think about that in the future. And I did respond that way, and I highly respect Ms. Newman and all of the teachers in our district, and I understand what they are asking for, and I understand why. But at this time, I feel that we are still okay with the plan that we are in, and I will explain my thinking as we move forward.
Thank you, and I'm sure we'll cover some of those topics
Yes.
in the reopening update. Public comments, as I understand, there were no public comment. Okay. Report from student reps. We'll start at the middle school. So Audrey Austin, who's going to kick us off?
To start off for Student Council, the Student Council facilitated the first annual toy drive for CCMC. Students and staff were able to fill a box of new toys to donate.
Charlie Mandigo and his mom delivered the toys to the Hartford Children and Families Parker Center for distribution. We are hoping to make this an annual event.
Now for Pajama Day. Students and staff will be participating in our annual Pajama Day for the kids. Students and staff are invited to donate $1 and these donations will benefit the Cancer and Blood Disorders Center at the Connecticut Children's Medical Center.
Our student council representatives will be collecting the donations from our students during arrival time. Collections will take place in the school main foyer and at the Board of Education entrance.
Next, for Math Counts. Math Counts has been meeting Wednesday mornings virtually from 7 to 7:30. Each student has their own digital notebook with problems that they work on and we review as a class. We also have been introduced to a new online platform called Art of Problem Solving.
This will take the place of the in-person competition we usually participate in, and it allows students to compete in practice rounds. The competition is in February, and they are using multiple resources to prepare.
Finally, for future problem solvers. The future problem solvers have been meeting virtually each week to practice for their upcoming competition on December 16th.
They have been working very hard as a new group with little background in the process. It has been a great learning experience for everyone. Good luck to the team.
Thank you. Any questions for Audrey or Austin? Great. Hunter Devon, high school.
First, for sports. Joseph Salafia, a senior, worked with a local reporter to write a fall sports review article for the Rare Reminder. There will be a link to Joe's article in the minute. Cromwell High School had several athletes make all-state teams for the sports this past fall season. For boys soccer, senior Tyler Neves. For boys cross country, senior Mark Rodriguez and senior Michael Zacco. For girls cross country, sophomore Grace Migan. Congratulations to all of these athletes. The winter sports season has been delayed until January 19th of 2021.
The Student Council, Unity Club, and National Honor Society are donating holiday baskets to Avabrook. The holiday baskets are laundry baskets with non-perishable food items and a gift card to buy a holiday ham or turkey. The Newspaper Club released its first digital newspaper of the year. The students have been participating in Spirit Days to raise morale. They brought their pets to virtual class, wore class colors, and dressed as their favorite holiday characters. On Thursday and Friday, students will participate in CCMC's Pajama Day. Students and families can donate to CCMC in school or using the link in the BOE Minute. Many students are facing new challenges as a result of COVID-19 and the ensuing lockdowns. Many feel isolated from their peers and teachers. Having a social worker at each school may help alleviate some burdens, allowing students, teachers, and administrators to perform better. I urge you to consider the students' mental health as the board begins its discussion of next year's budget.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Hunter or Devon? Great. Thank you, everybody. Reports of liaisons from Town Council and Board of Finance. We'll start with Mr. Ireland.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Don't have too much to report here. I mean, the big thing from our side is we do have budget season coming up. I know there are some references in the agenda. With some numbers stuff in it, for later on in the agenda here. In taking a quick look at it, I do see, the separating out of expenses related to COVID and different revenues and things like that. And, I think that'll be important to have and to review, as things get going, come March, April time as we go through the budget process and stuff. So, again, just want to continue to stress the collaboration between the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed. And, we're here to help in any way we can and, move forward from there. So,
Thank you. And I understand Dr. Macker will be providing more numbers to the Board of Finance shortly after this meeting.
Oh, you know what? I actually, because we put them in the references, I just sent an email
okay,
quickly
perfect.
saying they're in the references, so here they are, or Lisa
Perfect.
may have. But we'll send them again tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ireland?
all right, thank you.
Thanks, John. Mr.
Thank you.
Fortenbach, Town Council?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Steve, thank you.
Hello? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. All right, so I have just a quick report on one thing and then a couple of comments. It wouldn't take very much. So the Diversity and Inclusion Committee is going to be formalized tomorrow night at the Town Council meeting tomorrow night. So that's moving forward. Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, okay. So at the last meeting for the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, there was at least a handful. I think they were e-board members of the Unity Club that participated in that last meeting, and I just want to extend. I was really impressed with them. I thought they had good insight and good input in the meeting. Dr. Macri was part of the call, but I think they showed really well for CHS and as a whole. And going forward, hopefully they'll be able to operate as a liaison to the committee, and bring back those discussions back to Cromwell High School. But I thought they really showed well for the high school, and kudos to those guys. They did a good job. So, and as far as just a couple of questions or comments, and hopefully Dr. Macri can address these as part of the reopening. One of the things that I've been at least seeing or noticing is there's more and more students that are going to the full virtual learning. I guess the question is has the Board of Education, have they considered, is there a number or percentage of students that if it reaches a certain number, do we go full virtual if more and more students go to the virtual learning or opt for virtual learning? Again, that's something, if you can address that as part of your reopening comments, that'd be great. Second, and I know this is looking out a little further, but, with all the talk of vaccinations that are going to be available very shortly, has the Board of Education set metrics for, going back full in-school attendance moving into 2021 as more and more vaccines become available and more people become vaccinated from COVID? This is kind of just an observation, as a parent for students at the high school. I'm getting emails notifying me of people that have tested positive for COVID, but some of them are, a month old. I had one that was from September, and then one that was from spring of 2020. I don't know if any of those were typos or if that they were just a normal advisement. And I know if I'm asking the question, I'm sure I'm not the only one that had the question. So, and the last part is really specific. The last question or comment I have is specific to the high school. And maybe Mrs. DiFiore can comment on this, for the National Honor Society. I actually there was a couple of parents that brought this up to me, and I just would like some additional information, and I'll get off the call and I'll watch the YouTube to see the response. But as far as the National Honor Society went, it's my understanding that last year for third and fourth quarter, students were giving their letter grade, but not a numerical value that couldn't factor into their GPA. And so I think it had prevented some students that may have qualified for the National Honor Society from possibly qualifying and being able to put that on their college application. And from what I understand, you need to have a 3.6 GPA in order to qualify for the National Honor Society. And apparently that's not universal through all schools either in some of my research. So I just, if we can speak to that, it would be a shame if there were students that, as a result of COVID, because of how things had to play out last spring, couldn't qualify for the National Honor Society and weren't able to include that as part of their college application process. And that's it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So can I suggest that we handle points 1 and 2 from Steve in the reopening. And do you want to address the National Honor Society, or do you want Ms. DiFiore?
Sure. I think Ms. DiFiore and Dr. McLean can address the National Honor Society question. We talked very long last year about why it would not be fair, and how little of a percentage it actually took, because the inequity in services that were being provided, the inequity in opportunities for students participating in virtual learning, not participating in virtual learning, the inequity in the resources that we had available. So we did make a decision as a district, which I stand 100% behind, for equity purposes. So if Dr. McLean or Ms. DiFiore, if one of you would like to take that answer, but I do not believe that had any influence, because no one received a GPA. Yeah, so it hurt no one, because everyone was on the same playing field. So it didn't hurt anyone from getting in or not getting in, because no one had the opportunity. The only, to be honest, the only people that it would have truly helped were the people that already had an advantage, because they were participating in honors classes and such, and they had instructors from outside the school system. So to be equitable, we made this decision. But Dr. McLean, do you want to take that further, or Ms. DiFiore, whichever one of you would like to address that?
I'll let Fran take it. Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hi. This is Fran DiFiore, principal at Cromwell High School. There was a real struggle that we went through last spring when we were determining what we were going to do with regard to grades with third and fourth quarter. As you know, GPA is calculated by semester, and we did end in March, 2 weeks prior to the end of quarter 3, which it put students at a disadvantage because they did not have the advantage of working to get their grades up and finishing assignments and finishing assessments and possibly, making a change to those grades given what everyone was going through with regard to the pandemic. Then we made the decision going forward is that we would have a pass-fail system, and the only students that received actual letter grades were actually people who were in AP or UConn, and so those students did receive letter grades, but no one's GPA was calculated because of the inequities, as Dr. Macri was referring to. That was in terms of access, in terms of instruction, in terms of being able to complete assessments. So it was found that it would not be calculated for anyone, and that they would use the GPA that was calculated for quarter 1 and quarter 2. Dr. McLean, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Dr. McLean, if you could just add.
No, I just want to say that in terms of National Honor Society, the Shoreline establishes their criteria. We follow the Shoreline criteria, and there is a certain, criteria that we expect, and, some students make it, and sometimes it's, we have to go down to, a tenth of a point, but we have those expectations for a reason, and everybody had the same expectations, everybody had the same opportunity, everybody came into it on the same playing field. We set, the same criteria that we've always set. Everybody had the same scoring system. And so, there were some people that made the criteria, and there were some people that didn't. But it was extremely equitable, and we maintained our high standards for our Academic Honor Society. And, that's how we did the calculations this year.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. That's perfect. You said everything. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. DeFiore and Ms. Albanese, Dr. Alban. That was a slip. I called her Miss Alban. That's her, when I worked with her when we were spring chickens. Dr. McLean, when we were getting our doctorate together.
Okay, so any questions for Steve? Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Superintendent's updates and responses to BOE comments. Action items from prior meeting.
Okay, so we have, first, I have two people that are retiring, and I really want to acknowledge. We have Miss Deb Sacchetti, who is the secretary to the principal at ECS, and she has turned in her retirement letter. She's been with us for 12 years. Those of you, all your children have gone through as I look around. She is a friendly voice, a kind voice, a helpful voice, and it is time for her to retire and enjoy the rest of her life. We definitely will miss her, and I know it's bittersweet for her, but she will be retiring, and she will be done by December 31st. Same with, and I wish her the best. Same with Miss Donna Gibriano. Miss Donna Gibriano has been a para in Cromwell Public Schools for 37 years. When I read her letter of resignation in perfect cursive, I said, you just get teary. And I don't know her all that well until she retired. And then I went to visit her and wish her the best of luck. I just really appreciate everything she has done. She's touched more children than we could possibly imagine in that 37 years. So I wish Donna the best in her future as well. The other thing, quickly talking about Pajama Day, Cromwell has been doing it for years. We are going to be doing it again, as you heard from our wonderful students. We have Lillian Sturmer, who is the student in charge at the high school, however, is working with the entire student council. So we're worried, we're concerned about donations because it's such a different year. So Mrs. Hicks did provide the link to everyone so that people can donate directly online. They don't have to send it into school. So if that's easier for families to just make a donation online, you just make sure you say it's for Cromwell Public Schools and it'll go towards our donations. We have Pajama Day the 10th and the 11th because obviously it's hybrid at the middle and the high school. And we're going to do something fun at central office too for Pajama Day. So we have a lot of people, all of us know, love. We've been touched or heartbroken by someone who has passed away or struggles with cancer. So this is very important to us and we look forward to it. And we always obviously thank Ms. Representative Carpino. She is fully involved in Pajama Day with CCMC, so we are very happy that we are continuing to do this. It just will look a little differently this year. And the kids get to wear their pajamas remotely too, so that'll make them happy. And that is it. I did participate, myself and Dr. McLean are members of the Diversion and Inclusion Committee for the town, and as Mr. Fortenbach reported, we have a group of students who are also participating, and they are amazing. So as we move forward and get through COVID, we cannot forget, if anything, it's been embedded in our brains every single day I come to work, not just in Cromwell, but statewide and nationally, how inequitable it is schools or situations are for students of poverty, students of color, students with special needs, students who English is their second language. And right now we see a lot of inequities with every student. So when you're marginalized to begin with, you can only imagine that extra marginalization when you are not coming to school. So I'm proud to be on that committee, and we have some excellent people. And I encourage all of you to participate, or maybe one of you, and to invite people who really need to learn more about the history of why we have such a discrepancy and achievement gap with all of our students and families that are considered a subgroup that is marginalized. So I encourage you to do so, and it's been an excellent experience for Dr. McLean and I. We plan on staying along with our students, and it was a great night.
Can you let the board know when the next meeting is?
Absolutely. Yes, we will let you know as soon as we get the, we're going to break out into little subgroup committees, and so that we can, one of the students asked a great question. Victoria, she said, and I thought she was just chatting it to me privately, but she asked the entire committee. And she said, we've been talking and talking and talking, and we talk about this a lot. When are we actually going to start doing something about it? And I was just so proud of her that she just came right out and said it. So, yeah, when are we actually going to start and doing something about it looks differently, and we have to go at a certain pace, but we're there, and I do believe Cromwell is ready for it in schools and in the community, so I'm excited to be part of the committee.
Excellent. Any questions for Dr. Macri? Okay, let's see. Okay, presentations and reports of administration, budget update and COVID-19 expenses update.
Yes, we're doing our best. We're trying our best to keep the, as you can see, it's been a very expensive pandemic. So you have the information in front of you to look at, and I will have Miss Burke, our excellent Director of Finances, take over. If you have any questions for her, if you want to start with questions, that would be great since you had this information to look at. So Miss Burke is on and ready for questions.
So Ms. Burke, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Did you want to give any introduction to the materials before we open it up to questions?
Sure. In your packet is my budget summary status that I share with you monthly, as well as our projection worksheet. I've also included some more detailed information on the COVID expenses to date from July 1st forward. That is the landscape document. The first column starts with objects, then the category amount, a projection to the end of the year, very loose projection. But I did attempt to make some reasonable estimates to try to perhaps get us to where we will be at the end, although those numbers obviously can change. And the other document
Ann, actually, can I just stop you there 1 second? So, Ann?
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is Jeff. I just had a question.
Yes.
So on that landscaped document, it says projected to 6/30/20.
Oh,
I
apologize. That should be 2021.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure about that. Okay. So those are in addition to the column. So the column to the left of that where it says amount, that's amount to date or to a recent date?
Correct.
And the projection column is over and above what we've incurred to date. So between now and June 30th.
That's correct.
Okay, I understand. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Sure. The other document that I shared with you, we've been talking a lot about the different sources of funding to help us manage the expenses of the pandemic. I put this together for myself, but thought that it might also be helpful for the board. Each of the sources of additional funds are listed across the top with the dollar amount, and if there's a time period, I did add a time period in. Some descriptive information is in the next section, and then lastly, kind of a status, I guess, would be the last row. And some of these we've made firm decisions as to how the money will be spent. For example, for the ESSER grant, because we did have to file the grant with the state and get that approved. Same for the coronavirus relief funds, although they gave us the amount, and then we had to determine the categories that we were allowed to spend in, how we would allocate that money. As you recall, at the end of last year, we did have some very large purchase orders outstanding. So we did return that money to the town, and the town put it into the capital non-reoccurring account for the Board of Education. And then the last column is annually during the budget process, you'll recall that there is a technology loan in the capital outlay section. And the tech loan for 2021 we used for laptops, Chromebooks, Chrome covers, servers, additional Chromebooks for another group of children. And we have some money that we will make a determination as to how we're going to use that. So that is not a one-off like the ESSER and the coronavirus relief funds, but for me, it helps me determine how we're going to manage all the expenses that we have. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Ann, thank you for that. Just a question from me. This is Jeff. The $289,000 we're requesting for from the coronavirus relief fund. When do we think we'll get an answer on the funding of that, and when will funding do we think occur?
The request went in, and the typical turnaround is about 2 to 3 weeks. But I'll let you know, because that's the first time I submitted was just recently. So I could let you know at the next meeting what the turnaround is. But this grant will end on December 30th. So while I've done one submission, I anticipate that I will do at least one to two in December and also one in January. And then I'm assuming that there will be no additional funds given to us, so that we will wrap up those submissions and have that money in. Most likely by February, we should receive all of that. But like I said, because no one's been through the process yet, I can't with 100% certainty say the exact timing on that.
And do those funds come to the district directly, or do they go to the town first?
They come to the district directly.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ann?
Just quickly, Ms. Burke and I have been talking. As we start preparing our budget, we'll be doing our budget presentation on January 26th. And Ms. Burke and every other superintendent and finance director in the state of Connecticut or nationwide have the same question. Do we do a COVID budget or do we do a regular budget? And I said to Ann, we're going to be kind of doing both. So we're going to show you what we need and what we may need, because we don't know what it's going to look like, which will bring us into the conversation about the vaccination and such, and I can fill you in on what I have been made known up to date. So we will provide you with a COVID expense budget and one without COVID expense. And then, however, this is not COVID is going to be over. Everyone is getting vaccinated. We're coming back to school and everyone's just going to be on track. We have a ton of work to do to get our students back on track. And I will present that to you. And that will be costly. And we've never needed it. We needed it before COVID, and we need it even more now. So I'm very concerned about curriculum and instruction. Of course, I'm concerned about seat time. I'm concerned about the structure of central office. I'm concerned about how and who and when curriculum is being written and how it needs to be completely modified. And I don't mean modified is the wrong word. I want to say enhanced with modifications so that we can catch our kids up and then move them along. And we need to do that. I'm also worried about their mental health and well-being. And yes, I'm definitely worried about people walking away from education in general, all staff in general. So we have a lot to talk about in the future, but I'll save that for after the holidays.
Thank you. Any questions? Nope. Okay, on to new business. Item A, reopening update. Dr. Macri.
Okay, so I will try to be quick so that you can ask questions because there are so many questions and there are so many what ifs. And my crystal ball is broken, just like every other 169 of us. And there are 50 of us that met today. We meet every Tuesday, and everyone is pretty much doing their own thing based on what the needs of the district are. So I am incredibly proud of the staff of Cromwell. We're doing our best, everyone, to come to work, to stay as healthy and safe as we possibly can be so that we can provide some type of in-person learning most of the time, not all of the time. So right now, just to give you a quick update, I know it's very hard to trust, but in this notebook I have every name and every person and every date and every quarantine date and every testing date. And I look at the data every single solitary day, and I'm fully involved in the contact tracing component so that we're making informed decisions, data-wise, as far as staffing, as far as transmission, as far as who's actively positive, and who's quarantining. So as of today, and these are rough numbers because they usually change on the minute, we have at ECS, we have approximately 3 positive students and a couple positive staff members. We have about 50 students quarantined, and we have about 11 staff members that are quarantined or are taking EPSLA. So the staffing issue there, we're doing an excellent job at utilizing our paras to help our students get their special education supports through teachers that are streaming in. For example, if you're receiving special services from a speech and language pathologist or whatever the service may be, if that person needs to stream in, they're being provided with their services. One of the questions that I can cover for Mr. Fortenbach is we must report, and I know it's hard to read all of the entire letters every time I send them, and they change, but they do change, so I encourage people to not stop after the first half. We must report students who are remote learners. So for example, if you saw spring 2020, that wasn't a typo. That was the last time. I have to tell you when they tested positive, which is the date I usually send it, if that's when I find out. It's as honest as people are with me. And I've said that from the beginning, and I have to say we're getting about 97% compliance, and then that other 3%, I don't find out that a student tested positive or their parent, and they're still coming to school until Mr. Neshi gets his report from the state, and then that's usually 7 to 10 days later behind. So I thank the people that are working with us so that we can, stop the spread. But I encourage the people who definitely are afraid to not be afraid, and and speak with Mrs. Hansen. She's so approachable and helpful. So the quicker we get that information, the better off we are as a school system. So I do have to report those, and that's why you saw spring 2020, because they're full remote learners. Some students, you noticed, became remote learners later in September. Parents have that option, so that's why you may have seen that date. It depends on where you get tested. If you get tested at CHC, it could be Community Health Center. You can get your results 48 hours to 7 days later. That's what we've seen, especially the last couple of weeks because of Thanksgiving. If you get a rapid test, you usually know within a couple hours, but if you don't report it to us, we don't know. Families, although I've written many letters to tell people you still have to report if you're remote, people have not. So when I find out, that's when I let the community know. And so that's why the dates seem, they're all right, 100% correct. What you're reading is accurate. It just seems like, how could this possibly be? But it is, because it's in that exact time, in that exact moment when I received the information. I had families who wanted to know everything every minute, and I had families who were sick of my emails and my calls. I had families who wanted emails and not calls. I had families who wanted calls and not emails. I am not making anybody happy. So, and then it just became, that's all I was doing. My Thanksgiving was sitting outside on my laptop when my family was in the garage and outside, but I was on my laptop typing away, and the team was contact tracing all day long. So that's how the administration and Mr. Neshi and Ms. Hanson spent our Thanksgiving. So what we decided to do was let you know from 4 to 5 o'clock every day if there are cases. If there are no cases, you won't get a letter. We'll inform you. You can turn on your look at your email or choose not to look at your email. But if you're a direct contact, obviously, if you're a positive case, whatever, you get a personal phone call. You have to check your voice messages, though. But we don't give up until we get a hold of you. So that's what we've been doing. It seems to be working okay. With positive students, we have one remote. We have about 7 that are positive, and we do have a staff member that has tested positive. We have quarantined. We have about 65 students, and about 20 of them are due back tomorrow. And staffing, we have about 8 quarantined, a couple staffing issues and for other reasons, but we have 2 staff returning tomorrow. So we are not in that bad a shape. CMS, very few positives, and 2 are remote, no staff. Quarantined, 5 staff members. We have some. CMS is a school, if you ask me what school I worry about as far as staffing breaking point, because of the way it has been structured since day one. We have approximately 8 staff members that are out for ADA reasons. We're accommodating, they're streaming in, but as you could see, if you still have to have a body in the classroom to watch. So there can come a time where I don't have enough bodies because I can only utilize the paras so much because I have paras who have to provide services to students with special needs. I've also been asked the question, why don't you take staff from the high school and the middle school and use it at the elementary level? Because we are a full virtual district now, unlike we were last year. Every person is busy instructing or providing support. So if you're a para, you're zooming in and you're working with your students. If you're a teacher, you're working with your students. Whether you're home, here, for virtual or not, there is no extra staff because of closure. We've been able to work with the nurse situation, which was very helpful. But that's pretty much it. CHS, very low. We have approximately 4 students, a couple of are remote, no staff. About 13 quarantined, 1 being remote. That's why the letter was from September, and almost no staffing issues at all. Right now, to date, we have about, at this minute, approximately 600 students. Tomorrow it'll be different, that are quarantined and are remote. So they're either remote because of quarantining or they're choosing to be remote, which means that's 30% of our school population. If we only talk about the kids, the students who are choosing, we're at about 75% of our population coming to school and 25% choosing to be remote. So we are, I think the strategy that we took was actually, it's like playing rush. It's like gambling every day. Some districts did it this way. Some districts did it this way. I looked at our data. I spoke with Sal. I spoke with people that I have a lot of respect for, pushed myself, played devil's advocate. What would happen with this date or this date? If we come back on the 30th, what would it look like? The decision that was finally made, I do believe, was the right one because we're still in pretty good shape today. So I was thinking that by December 15th, and that could very well be because things can change overnight. but we're at December 8th. I was hoping, gee, if we can, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I said, if we can get through December 11th and stay open, I'm going to be psyched. Now I'm thinking a little differently. I'm thinking in the way, when I say open, the way we are as of today, right now, full ECS and WIS, hybrid at the secondary schools. I believe we might be able to push it to the 18th. However, so this is where I ponder sometimes. I could call it quits to be preventative and say, you know what, this way everyone has daycare. Our kids need to be here as much as they can. I've sent letters that said, please have daycare lined up as if it's going to happen tomorrow. And I believe that's how we should operate, is let's just keep going and see what happens. And it's going to look different. I don't want to keep the schools uniform because I don't believe that's the right thing to do. If I can keep ECS, if I have to close ECS because I don't have staffing, and they have to go fully virtual, but I could keep the high school and the middle school in hybrid, then why wouldn't I? Our kids want to be here, and we have the staff. If I don't have the staff, I have to close. So this is reviewed every single day and changed. As you can see, my fancy, it's in pencil, so I can erase. We make a lot of adjustments as we need to, but as of now, I would like to push to stay the way we are until December 8th, knowing that tomorrow I could get 10 calls from one school, and we'd change everything. I would like to go remote in the entire district for December 21st, 22nd, and 23rd for quite a few different reasons. The quarantining periods have changed. People are traveling. I feel that if we do go remote those 3 days, there's a better chance that people are not going to be, not that I feel, I know it by the dates, they're not going to be getting calls on Christmas Day saying your child is quarantined and you're quarantined because you were a close contact. So it would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And that's what I'm predicting today. I would like to say those 3 days will be remote for everyone. Will be done on the 18th. But that we can pull the trigger on any schools at any time, depending on whether I have the staff or the positivity rates are too high. There is no magic number. Every district operates differently. With the support of their local health director, which you've spoken to, Mr. Neshi, and we're all doing things differently for different reasons.
So can we pause right there?
Sure.
Because Lori had a question.
Sure.
I want to stop periodically for questions.
Thanks. My question was with regard to the comment you made about families not coming forth, and you don't find out about it till, say, 7 to 10 days later. How many times has that happened when the families have not come forth and disclosed?
Mrs. Hanson, what would you say? Jillian? We've had about to date, we've had...
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we're close to 50 since the beginning of the school year, or even a little more, but how often do you believe, and Nurse Hanson does a great job at calling people, and so does Mr. Neshi, and getting information from them, but how often do you think we find out later?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you. I would say we've probably had, and I'd have to look back, but if my estimate is about 5 to 6 cases we have found out from the health department, not from a family directly. And I can go back quickly and give you an exact number if you want.
And there are times we find out about situations where there have been social gatherings, and then we get some pushback about testing, and then finally people may go get tested, but by then it's it's not that it's too late, but that 48-hour, that incubation period is over. So we may have missed an opportunity, or maybe it was fine and it worked out fine. We don't have a magic number, I would say, Mrs. Hanson, but the sooner we know, the better we can deal with it. And we keep everyone's, it's private, and everyone tries to guess who it is anyway. So we keep everyone private. Any other
Laura, you had
questions?
another question?
Yeah. So I'm just curious, out of those cases, have any of them, has the situation been that they came to school, they didn't report, and the students still came to school and did expose, or they were home? Like, I'm just trying to get a handle on, like, how serious is it? Of those 5-6 cases, did the students still come to school knowing that they had tested positive?
Miss Hanson, I don't think we had anyone come to school that's tested positive. I know for sure, and you could respond to this better, Miss Hanson. I know for sure that people haven't reported it until later, and then we had to go back and quarantine. It made it difficult to contact trace and quarantine. But do you want to capitalize on that, Jill?
Yes. So, can you hear me still?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So for the most part, they have not come into school that we know of being positive and being contagious. That being said, it is difficult because you have to look at just now. When we do contact tracing, we look at when they are symptomatic. And when it's several weeks in the past, it's hard for families to remember the exact dates that they were symptomatic. So let's say you get tested on Thursday, but you were feeling symptoms on Monday. Your incubation period that you look at as far as CDC guidelines would be Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday through the time that you realize that you were positive, which is Thursday when you find out. So you have to look at all of those days. And sometimes families don't always remember when they were symptomatic, or, you know, we have to leave it to them to give us that information. So I would say for the most part, no, we are not seeing that people are showing up positive in school and not telling us. They're usually keeping their children home and just not calling us and telling us that they've received a positive result.
Which could impact the quarantining, the contact tracing piece. So we need to know for everyone.
So just a question on the full remote days, which I know are not set yet. What is the reason for that? Is it because we're predicting increasing cases, or is there another reason?
So we're predicting increasing cases. But we were predicting a lot of increasing cases, and we've been able to manage them. I believe we've been able to manage them because by default, and this is another question from Mr. Fortenbach, is that we are now at the high school, we are a hybrid of a hybrid. So we have about half of our students coming to school, and the other half participating virtually. So I believe that took care of itself, and really being able to stay your 6 feet or 10 feet apart has really helped. However, I want to keep the building open if the students want to come to school. My thinking for the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd is that after listening to Dr. Carter, which is very confusing and annoys me, and Mrs. Hanson can validate, we are fine. So basically, when a student is exposed or an adult is exposed, they're saying, and you've heard it on the news, that you find out or someone gets exposed and then they get it sooner rather than later. That is not the case in schools. It's not the case in Cromwell, and it's not the case in a lot of other schools too. They get it later. So we still think that tomorrow and through this weekend could possibly be when people are going to test positive.
Because of Thanksgiving?
Because of Thanksgiving. Yep, that's what we're finding a lot of is the families who, it's familial. It's families. So if we stop on the 18th, then that gives us the 19th, so we can contact trace back. We don't have to ruin everyone's holidays. Most of the students are choosing remote at the secondary level and not at the elementary level. I felt that it wouldn't be it'll be an impact, like it always will be an impact with families and daycare and everything else. But do they want to be in school and then informed that they were a direct contact on Christmas Day and can't leave, or they're homes for 14 days, or in some cases 24 days, or do they want the 3 days before so that we can kind of let them know ahead of those 3 days and the contact tracing ends? We have that 48-hour period. Maybe Jillian can explain it better. Because of that 48 hours, we would only have to go back. So if the student was in school on the 18th, then we would have to go back to the 17th and the 16th. If the student is in school on the 23rd, we have to go back to the 22nd and the 21st, and then they're in quarantine longer, pretty much their entire vacation, and it could impact people's their Christmas, their holiday.
We have a question.
Yep. I don't know if Jill wants to talk about that more.
So my question is, couldn't that still happen though? Like if the example that Jillian gave, if someone, let's say someone goes in to get tested on the 18th, they don't get the results back till partway through the week anyway, and we do the 2 weeks back, we do the 24 hours or 48 hours before they were tested, they're still going to go into quarantine over Christmas.
They may go into quarantine, yes, but we go 48 hours from symptoms when the child or adult is symptomatic, or if the adult is symptomatic, or when the person is swabbed or actually test positive. So it would, Jill, do you want to explain a little better than how we talked about it? Because going back that 48 days.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. So I guess the true answer is it possible? Of course it is possible. But what we're seeing is that a lot of people are testing positive in the second week. We also are seeing that test results are taking, on average, I would say most of the time it's taking 7 days. So when they are swabbed, it could be Monday, and they don't get a result until the following Sunday. So 7 days of their quarantine, if not more, because if they're symptomatic, if it took them 7 days to get a result, and they were symptomatic 2 to 4 days before that, then their quarantine's almost over with by the time we find out about it. So that's what Dr. Mackey's talking about, is that because of the testing taking time, and DPH talked about that this morning, that's because of the surge from Thanksgiving, that is the best that the labs can do at this point. So we are looking, when we do get results, we're seeing it is from at least a week ago, if not further. So is it a chance that they would have to quarantine during Christmas? Yes, but it would be less of a chance just because of what we're seeing.
Okay, so just
does that help explain it?
Well, just to clarify, we're talking about people who may test positive, not other individuals in the building who may be considered close contacts of those who have tested positive, because their quarantine could be longer than the positive.
Exactly. Their quarantine will, yes, be longer than the positive. Right, Jill? It could be 14 days, or it could be, if it's a whole family, it could be up to 24 days. It could be longer, but Jillian, go ahead.
Yeah, most of the time, and I say most of the time, if families are getting their getting tested, getting their children tested, they're keeping their kids home. So around the time that they're getting tested, their kids have not been in school. So we look at the last day that they were in school in conjunction with the 48 hours prior to their symptom onset. So lots of times the last day of exposure was 14 to 10 or 7 to 10 days prior to that as well. Most people are not sending their kids in when they're sick. They're finding out that they're coming down with something, they keep them home, they go get tested, and then they don't find out for 7 days. So the quarantines of the kids in the classroom would sort of match that. Like they would have sort of 4 to 6 days of quarantine left.
So I guess if we
Does
have
that
a
make
student, I'm just going to give an example. If we open school on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, we could possibly have someone who tests, and it could still happen, but you have someone who tests positive and then you're quarantining them, and you could be quarantining a whole classroom, especially if they're little, like K1, 2, the entire classroom. Your chances of quarantining less people if we're in remote sooner rather than later for the holidays is greater. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. I go back and forth.
I would just say, let the community know as soon as you know.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? I go back and forth of, at any day, and I've said that in all of my letters, I could tomorrow change a school from full to hybrid because I don't have the staff. And there's no way for me to know. Sometimes we don't even know until that morning. That happened to us once. We can't make it up. I have no crystal ball. I want to try my best to go as far into the 18th as we possibly can. Some superintendents want to make the entire district the same. I don't feel the need to make the entire district the same. I feel that we need to look at every school, and we handle every school differently as it arises. And I will let the public know that, the parents know that 21, 22, 23, we plan to be fully remote. However, there is a chance that that school could be fully remote before that day. And I may not know until the day before because it really is impossible. We're doing the best we can, but.
There's a question from Lori.
Yes, thanks. I mean, when do you want to are you looking to make this decision now? I guess my thinking is, and I agree with your approach all along, keeping the students in, and I appreciate so much all the work you've done to keep students in the building as long as possible. It's so important. Deciding this now, 2 weeks out, and then what if you don't see a spike in cases, and then the kids could have gone in Monday. I just know the value of every day that they go in is a bonus. So
I guess that's the trade-off, right? There's a trade-off. I'm like, oh, do I ruin more people's holidays? Do I take that chance? Is the data, are they telling us probably we're going to see a surge? Yes. Could we have none? I think it's highly unlikely that we would not. I believe that most of my high school students are the half that are planning to stay out until after the holidays already. They've notified the school and said, we're done until after the holidays.
Half the high schools already said that?
Yes, we have half of our student population that is not coming back. They're in remote. So we're in a hybrid of a hybrid right now. So that was what Steve was saying, like, when do you get to a certain point of virtual where everyone goes virtual? To to me, it's how long can we sustain the staff, and how many cases are there, and how many students does it impact? There's no, if we're looking for a perfect metric, it does not exist. It doesn't exist with DPH. It doesn't exist with, CDC comes up with guidelines. But the local district, Sal, Mr. Neshi, has the final say. He could tell me, you have to shut down tomorrow because the surge of this, and I really can argue with him, and I would, but I would do what he would tell me to do, because he's the health department. But that's, I am hoping, like I was saying, I was praying to get through the end of this week, and now it's looking that we might be able to get through maybe to the end of next week. But that could change on Sunday, and you guys can get it, it's unpredictable. We can't predict it. We do have cases in the hopper that we know about, that we're concerned about at a couple schools, that if they turn positive, it could possibly shut the school down. We've been lucky too. We've had some that we thought for sure were going to be positive, and they were negative, and Jillian and I were jumping up and down. It's so unpredictable. We don't know.
So when do you want to decide this then, I guess?
So basically, I will decide, I will let everyone know what I'm telling you now by the end of this week. So on the 10th at 10 o'clock, I think. 9:15. The Health Advisory Committee is getting back on the phone with Mr. Neshi. Thursday, yep, at 9:15. We're back on the phone at 9:15. We're going to make a decision, looking at the numbers with what we have in front of us on that day. And if they don't change, we're going to give it a shot until the 18th, knowing that that could change at any given day and we would have to close. And then I would let families know on that Friday, the 11th, that we would be remote 21, 22, 23. That's the first part. The second part, which a lot of districts are doing, I haven't decided yet. I really kind of wanted to see what would happen through the 18th to make that decision. Is we are due back on the 4th. A lot of districts are not coming back until the 11th because of that 2-week period. But then we saw something different after Thanksgiving. I don't know what I'm going to see. So I know I make it difficult for families with daycare, but I am weighing my options. I want to try and keep kids in school as long as I can. And so I may have to and you may say to me, we don't like that idea, make a decision and just stick with it so it's predictable. But I would rather not have it so predictable, because if we go with predictability, I'm going to make the safer choice. And which would be kids that we would be out for sure until January 8th, because I don't know. The December 10th to make a decision for January 8th it's a month away. It's too far away. So I want to keep doing things the way I'm doing them. We're doing them. I don't have a better answer. It's been working for us, and I think that's the way we need to stick to it so that we can keep kids in the building as long as we possibly can.
Question from Jen, please.
So my question just is in relation to the union letter that we received. I'm just wondering, based on contact tracing, how many teachers do we think might have contracted COVID at school, and how many students might have contracted it at schools as well?
I will let Ms. Hanson take that question. I can answer it as well, but she just does a better job.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So again, not the easiest thing to predict, because you are, all you can do is look at where the cases were, where they were seating, where they were seated in the classrooms, lunchrooms, and those places. I would say that there's only one case that involved a few people, that we are it could possibly be considered a contact within the school. That being said, there are outside factors that also impacted that case. So it's hard to decide when there's outside factors as well as inside factors, which was the trigger. But I would say that, and Dr. Macker, you can say this too, on our DPH calls, that statewide they are not seeing transmission in school. When they look at these cases and are investigating them, most schools are not seeing transmission because of the mitigating factors and the way that they are enforced in school. The kids are keeping their distance, the teachers are keeping their distance, we're wearing masks all the time, the hand washing is enforced, and so it's very, very limited what we're seeing in school.
Thank you. So I think we've covered that. Any other?
Jeff, can I make this is Selena. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, hi, Selena. Yes, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I think it's amazing we've been in as long as we have been, and everyone's doing such a great job. And I just don't think it's a lot to ask, so I'm totally fine with the 3 days before break. Not that it's up to me, but I just wanted to say I'd hate for staff to, again, be contact tracing over holidays, like on Thanksgiving Day. So I agree with that approach, and I
Thanks.
also
It got us
wanted
all
to
out of
ask
peeling
about-
potatoes, though. No one had to peel potatoes. All the principals were psyched that the spouse was peeling the potatoes.
A good way to look at it.
Thank you, Selena.
And you mentioned the advisory committee, and I just wondered, is that different than the reopening committee, and how does that feed into the reopening committee? Is the reopening committee kind of over with, and now that has taken over?
Yes, because there's such a strong emphasis on the health component, really, and the staffing component, like we either have it or we don't. So really, it's cut and dry. We're either closing because our active cases are too high at that moment, or we're closing because we don't have the staff to deal with the situation. So it's not something that, of course, we want everyone's input, and I know how everyone. I don't know how everyone feels, but I could make some inferences. But that's the two things that it's coming down to right now, and so. The health advisory is Mr. Neshi, Jillian Hansen, PM Grandy, and myself. And if we need to contact Dr. Milanese from CCMC, we do when it gets tough. And if it gets really tough, we contact her, and we contact the epidemiologists at DPH and get them involved as well. So because it's just those two decisions, it doesn't mean that we won't ever get back together as a committee, because as things change, right, we may need to meet and say, what are we looking at as far as hybrid and such. But we're learning so much about it, about the virus, that we're able to make some pretty good decisions. I can't promise that they're always going to be great, but they're the best that we have at that moment.
Could you just touch on Steve's question from earlier about what the eventual return to school will look like in light of the vaccinations starting?
Yep, sure. So we've been on our calls still 3 times a week with DPH, CSDE, and we get our information. So as of now, there is phase 1 of the vaccination, and that is for healthcare workers, hospitals, nursing homes, and the elderly, people who are immunosuppressed. That's phase 1, and they are slated. There was an executive order that just went into effect, letting pharmacists provide the vaccination and all different people. And we believe, as the governor said, what is it, December 14th? Lindsay probably would know. I would, I think he said December 14th, that phase 1 will be starting. We do not know as of yet, and I don't know as of yet, who's mandated, who who has to absolutely have that vaccine. I know it's a two vaccines, 3 weeks apart. We're going to struggle. They're going to struggle with mandating it or leaving it up to the person, or is it if for you to work here, do you have to do it? I don't know if that'll be the same case in schools. I did hear today for the first time, because they were going back and forth, that educators, so anyone working in a school, will be phase 1B. And again, can we mandate people to have the vaccine in order to work in schools? As of today, no. But that could change. We don't know that yet. My desire is it will come a time, and I don't know what it'll look like, is obviously to open our schools full again and get everyone here. Obviously, we believe the vaccine works. The more people that are vaccinated, the less we have to worry. That's what we want to believe, right? We don't really know 100%, but that's what we want to believe, and hopefully we can believe it. And we'll get everyone back as soon as possible. I have never given anyone a date, and I will continue to not give a date because I don't have a crystal ball, and I will never mislead anyone. I will be transparent, but I will not be misleading. I still believe kids belong in school. I've never changed that, but I also believe that we need to be careful on how we do this, because it could go bad very quickly. So let's see what happens with the vaccination. Let's see what they say as far as mandates, when, who, how. None of that has really been told to us, and our DPH call was yesterday morning, and we have a governor's call tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, and they talk about it again, and then we have another DPH call on Friday. So 3 times a week, and it changes. They've changed the quarantining period for some, because people have really been struggling with the 14 days. I don't know. The epidemiologists seem to agree with the CDC guidelines, but they're leaving it up to local control, and they're strongly suggesting that in schools we stay with the 14-day quarantine period, the 10 if you're positive, 14 if you're quarantined, because we are noticing something very different than what is being reported in the community. So as of now, we are staying with that 14-day quarantining period, 10 if you actually have COVID, and you have to isolate, 14 if you quarantine. And that is a local decision, and that's up to the health department, and it's been made. That's not my decision. Mr. Nescia has already made that decision for now. I'm trying to look at, I wrote down the question, so I want to make sure I answered it all. About when being notified. Yes, so I think I answered everything.
So you had talked about everything, a variety of different things earlier, including where we stand with students and where they are in the curriculum, and how we are not really where we should be. Mm-hmm. And I know at the start of the school year, an agreement was made to keep half days for Wednesdays for hybrid and virtual learning models. If an entire school was set in that model, like the high school and the middle school, the half days were set for PLC days for teachers because they had a lot to adjust to. Mm-hmm. However, we're missing out on a half day of learning for students every single week. Mm-hmm. So is there a consideration to change that as we move forward, maybe starting in January, to reevaluate and decide if that's really necessary for our teachers every single week, because we do need more learning for our students?
I agree that instructional time is incredibly valuable. I believe that our teachers and myself and all of you with the memo of agreement, that we made a decision together to write that memo of agreement. And in that memo of understanding, it is understood that as long as we are in the hybrid model, we did change it to, if we go to remote, it's not Friday, it's always going to be Wednesday to keep it consistent for everyone. But it will remain in effect as long as that MOA is in effect. And I know our teachers are doing a much better job because they're getting used to it, but I do believe that they still need that time, that PLC time, and contractually, there's nothing really we can do about it, and I still do believe that they need it. We are also using that time to provide professional development to paras, which is, they're providing services, and some of that time is being used as for PD with other people. It's just, we're not ready to let that go, and nor can we contractually. Okay.
Thank you. Dipti?
I'm sorry, I have one question going back to the possible
Dipti, could you
remote.
just move your mic down?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Possible remote learning. Maybe on December 21st, 2nd, 23rd, and you had talked maybe about January. But would you let the community know if what you were doing in January before the holidays started?
Okay, so I can't. So this is what I'm thinking, because I don't sleep. Obviously, I think about this stuff. I'm crazy. It is what it is. I would let the community know. I'd send out a letter this Friday saying this is predicting. My prediction is as well as anyone's prediction. We're going to do our best to stay the way we are right now until December 18th. We will go remote the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, so that this way they know at least the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, we will definitely be full remote, virtual learning in the entire district. If at any time I have to go remote before the 18th, I will, if it's a staffing issue and a safety issue, it could be overnight, and I'm sorry, that's the chance we take by staying in. That's why some districts are closing down the 11th. I want to give it a try. I say, let's just give it a try. Knowing and having everyone understand that in giving it a try, they may be inconvenienced. That's why have daycare planned for every day, have a backup plan. And I think that's a good idea anyway, because you never know when you're going to be quarantined. We're doing it that way, right? That's how I feel too. You never know if you're going to be quarantined or not. So let's just do it, keep doing it that way. Jeff had asked me a great question, Chairman Matrullo. He said, why not go straight, go to the hybrid? The hybrid is good. So let's say, for example, if the cases are high in January and we decide to come back on really high, January 4th or January 8th, it would be good to come back after we have a clean slate in hybrid at elementary at that point, because our teachers would be out of quarantine. Our staff would be out of quarantine. Right now, being in a hybrid at ECS would do us no good because we have 11 staff members quarantined. So whether we're in hybrid or full, people are streaming in anyway. So it's either remote or come to school because we were able to manage it. With that being said, students with special needs are getting their services, students ESL, everyone's getting their services. However, we are seeing tier 1 instruction and tier 2, which is our students who need that little extra support, are the students who are definitely are not getting as much of the support because we need to use that tier 2 support to really make sure we're providing tier 1, which is your classroom teacher. We need coverage for that, or we would have to close. So that comes down to how are we going to catch up and what do we need to do. And Dr. McLean and I are going to do a presentation for you and explain to you what I believe, what we believe we need as a district to move our district forward after this is said and done. And it's going to take us, for me, my belief in talking with superintendents and some of the preliminary research is it's going to take 2 to 3 years. And we are in the good zone. So we might be able to do it in a year and a half to 2. Some schools have never, they haven't gone to school yet.
It's a different discussion for a
Yeah, different day. So I think I definitely would let everyone know exactly what I said on the 11th.
Including what would happen in January?
No.
Not then,
I
not
could,
then,
but if I did, if I let everyone know December 11th, I would go with the January 8th date because I would be safer. But I don't want to play it. I want to play it. I will let everybody know, by, I feel that by Wednesday, the 30th of December, I could say we're coming back the 4th or we're coming back the 11th. And then knowing that can still change. Okay? So around the 30th, that should give people some time. And I'm sorry. It's tough.
Okay. Any other highlights?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm writing down.
Oh, no, that's okay.
I was writing down my notes just to remember. I know Alessandra
No,
was doing it too. I wanted to make sure I understood.
Any other high points?
I think that is pretty much it. If you've asked all your questions, I thank you for your support. I do thank our families. We've gotten incredibly nice emails, letters, cookies, Neil's Donuts delivered to the office, flowers from families just to say thank you and saying the last person they'd ever want to be is me. But I feel lucky to be me. It is very difficult to make decisions, but it is what it is right now. We have to keep doing this together and supporting each other. So I thank all of you, and I thank the community and our staff.
Great. Thank you. And certainly thank you to your team and staff. The only reason we're here is because our teachers are dedicated and committed.
They
to the
sure
kids,
are.
so.
Our staff is incredibly committed. So I thank them as well.
Great. Thank you very much. And we'll be talking more, I'm sure.
Forever.
Okay, next, Chromebook update. Back over to you.
Yes, so I wanted to show you, because I just want to make sure that everybody understands. We were on a trajectory of replacing Chromebooks, and then when COVID started, we had to provide people with devices however we possibly could, which threw us off. So Mr. Latwinzik and his team, Mr. Van Backhoven, we have a bigger team, Mr. Smith. We have Miss. Why am I drawing a blank right now? 2 more people on our team, and they're doing a great job. And Mr. Latwinzik is working with Dr. McLean because it's not only about the devices; it's the instructional component as well. So I will hand it over to Mr. Latwinzik, Mr. Olerud, and Richards, Mr. Richards.
I was seeing if you want to pick it up or not, but I'd let you struggle a little bit.
What the funny thing is? Those 2 names I should know the best because they were students when they were little, and now they're adults, and I had them as students.
Okay, this is a recap of what's actually out in the fleet right now. Things that we had received in the past, and we received 115, I believe, just before COVID really swung into play and wreaked havoc with us. And you can see there's a large number of older devices out there. The Chromebook 11G5 EEs, which is about 50% of the fleet. And also there's a slice in there somewhere, I'm looking for it, the Stream books. And I'm just trying to look for, it's about 7%. So about 57% of the fleet, which probably about, it's not 50% of the, or 57% of the fleet is out of warranty, but close to that is out of warranty. Because we were buying them in chunks because we were trying to move over to this one-to-one model, which was only really in the middle school and the high school. And now it's expanded all the way, as you'll see in the next slide in a minute, that we're doing it from pre-K on up now. All right, so it was a rapid transition, and we were, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul to get as many devices out into the hands of the kids that we could. But a lot of tablets, which is going to transition. Basically, we're going to be transitioning to a laptop type device, which would be a Chromebook from grade 1 all the way to 12. So this is just kind of what we have for a fleet, and you can see there's a number of different models, a number of different types of devices, and like I said, we have some sub notes there. Some of the things are still under warranty. Go ahead, Steve.
The second bullet point, the 650, that should be 9/2020, not 2021. They're no longer covered. So
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, you put it wrong here. Yeah, you can type in there now. We have the ability. Yes. So basically, yeah, as you can see, we already have things that are like there's 650 of the 1,100 devices. 650 of the Chromebook G5s are out of warranty, which is also a reason why we need that the user fee implemented, so we can actually get. And parts are really tough to get right now too, which is another problem. We have an estimated 700, almost 500 and something devices, plus another 170 devices on order.
So we have the 385 left plus the 170.
So yeah, so 5 1/4 devices basically on sometime going to show up. We were supposed to get a ship date on the majority of them on November 30th. Yeah, that came and went. Probably won't see anything shipping, not receiving, shipping until like March. So it's imperative that we get some type of funding in here to help alleviate the issue we have, because I can't pull back on the orders, and of course everyone sends an email. Oh, we're expecting these to come in yesterday. Well, you already have them ordered from somebody else. You can't, and then they don't have them either. So until somebody actually knocks and pulls up a truck and says, "I have them in my truck. Would you like some?" we might consider it. I doubt it though. No one can get these things. It's really unfortunate. But it caught us at a bad time, and it's not just us trying to get these devices. We were lucky to get the teacher devices we got. We called around trying to find out who has what in stock. What can you deliver yesterday? And we were able to get the ones for the teachers. And after that, I tried to get more of those. I got like another 15 of them, and then I tried to get a few more, and they said, yeah, you can get those in March. They said, oh, thanks, never mind. And if there's any questions on this, I'm just going to the next slide, just to tell you what our plans are to go forward with this. So what we're planning on doing, the highlighted grade years are what we're trying to do for upgrades. And the first one you see at the top are Chrome Tab 10s. We're going to convert those to Chromebooks. And we're going to collect back the Chrome tabs and use those as replacements for the kindergarten and pre-K, which is not in the list because it's a small number of devices. And those highlighted grades are the grades we're going to inject new devices. So grade 1, grade 5, and grade 9 will be getting new devices as soon as we get them in. And you'll say, why didn't you do grade 4? Well, we're going to take the grade 5 ones and give them to grade 4. And then next year, they'll get new ones. So those are the years we'll inject. That way it'll roll. It's a 4-year recycle program, which we've always been on. It's just that as we transitioned to Chromebooks, we did it aggressively. So it threw us off. We don't have that nice clean one every 4-year break and a nice 3-year way of doing it. So we transitioned from a lot of Windows devices to Chromebooks. So, and prior to that, we did a injection a couple years ago, taking 2 years of iPads out of the high school and putting Chromebooks in. So it really messed us up to be a very fluid and real easy, even way of doing things.
Dipti, I think I saw you first.
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Oh.
She's just giving me the single finger salute.
Catherine, go ahead.
So I have 2 questions. How did you decide the 9th grade over the other grades in the high school, number 1? But in twofold, just this is simple. Can you send us a like an email of what you're presenting to us?
Yeah, we'll include these in
Yeah,
the
and this is typically what we've done over the years. We before we used to do a whole building at a time, and so we'd concentrate, say, on the high school. The next year we do whatever, in each school in rotation. But the problem with that was there was a lot less devices. There were labs. There was teacher devices, and that's all we were dealing with. We're dealing with the numbers were way lower. I think the maximum number in the building was 250, 280, and now, as you can see, And these are hundreds of devices, like 500 devices a year to do it. And I'm trying to make it equitable because otherwise I'd never get to some of these grades. And I'm trying to make the devices go about 4 years before I replace them. 6 years is really a stretch with these devices. They start to get really sluggish and the batteries start to wean out, and they could probably last a little longer, but we're going to try to recycle these as best we can for spare parts because that's another problem I'm having, is trying to make these things last because I have such a large complement of G5s and then the G6s, which will be the next largest group.
It's like the G5 for the older grades, they've had longer, they've had it through middle school.
Yes, they have. The problem is I'm trying to make it equitable across all grades, and plus I'm trying to. I'll have enough as I pull those out of service to make those things last longer. And some of those fleet aren't as old. Don't confuse it just by the model because we bought them in different years. As you saw, about half of those, or a little more than half, were out of warranty, but the other half are still in warranty for at least another year or two. And as I replace them, I'm going to get the G5s to use them as I'll cannibalize them because we're getting very adept at that too.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Dipti.
A Streambook is a Windows-based device. It was our first attempt. You weren't here for that, but Jeff was when we made our Chrome clones. That was our first transitional way of getting toward the Chromebooks before we were really ready for the Chromebooks. And it was a prelude to going this way. And we were actually, those machines are stretched really thin because they're probably about 8, 9 years old now. So we've really got our money's worth out of some of these devices. So, I mean, I'd like to do more, but...
Tommy, can I?
Sure.
Go ahead, Selena.
Sorry about that. I just wondered, I know in the past, I think we were told that parents couldn't opt to purchase one because you wouldn't want to connect it to the Wi-Fi at the school and whatnot. Is that still the case? If there was, I know you're saying there aren't any to be bought, but if they could be found, could parents opt to purchase one and have it connected?
Well, the problem with that, Selena, is that these are all owned by the district and they're part of our domain, and there's licensing involved that get them onto our domain and be managed by us. They would have to relinquish their ownership of the device for it to to participate in our domain.
If they were willing to do that, is that something that could be done then?
We buy a certain type. I mean, then we'd have a mishmash, and I'm really worried about support. Because if you get Lenovo's, which have been not very reliable, as you see in the news, they've been burning up. So we don't really. I was lucky not to buy any of those. There's Dells out there. There's a number of different manufacturers. We've had really good luck with the HPs. They've been pretty rugged. I mean, there are different. We buy the Education Edition, which is a little different than the regular Consumer Edition. So it's a little bit more robust and it lasts a little bit, better and can deal with a little bit more abuse. So that's what we're trying to stick with. We're trying to make something familiar because if I have to learn 3 or 4 or 5, now 8 different types of platforms, it's going to slow us down, and we may not have parts to fix that other one. Where I have an ample amount of supply here, at least to get us through a little bit as soon as something comes in.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Tommy? Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the IT team. They're awesome every day.
Okay, next, stipend approval. Reference B, there's one stipend for golf coach varsity. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Jen. Is there a second? Second by Dipti. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, next, action, approval of minutes and motions from the November 10th, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by John, is there a second?
So moved.
Second by Lori. Any comments or questions?
I made a mistake.
Oh, okay, we have a comment from Dr. Macri.
I misspoke in the minutes, and then I listened to make sure I did misspeak. I said the positive cases at the time that there were 12 students and 2 adults. At that time, there were 15 students and 2 adults. So I would just like to amend the minutes or write it, make note now.
I'm pretty sure that was my motion.
All right, we have a motion to amend by John, and then we have a second by Lori. So we have a motion to approve the amended minutes. Comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, item E, principal reports attached as references D, E, F, and G. Are there any questions? No? Okay. Item F, human resources personnel activity, reference H. We did hear about the 2 retirements earlier. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on. Oh, please, Lori, one comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to also piggyback on what Enza said for the people who are retiring, and especially Mrs. G. I know she's also my neighbor too, and I know how devoted she was to her students. So I wish you a wonderful retirement.
Thank you. Board committee reports. None for the policy, none for facility and technology. Topics for future agendas. Are there any additions? I don't think there were any from this meeting. Okay, comments, updates, and announcements from board members and administrators. We'll do administrators first. Anything from people on the line? Okay, we'll start with Alessandra. Anything? Lindsay? Lori? Dr. Macri? I'll just say happy holidays, because we won't see each other until after the holidays, so please be healthy and safe and enjoy. Selena?
Oh, no, I'm all set. Thanks.
John?
Just echo the happy holidays, no matter when they start or end.
Amen. Lou?
I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you for the hard work, and see you everybody after the holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen? Dipti? Catherine? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
There is.
Catherine, second by John. Comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
The motion carries.